Hi everyone, it's Grant Abbott speaking, and today we're going to look at planning your medical future just in case. And we're going to be looking at the Lightyear Docs Advanced Healthcare Directive, which may be known, depending on the state, exactly what the specific name is, but we'll drop it into the general or the more nominal name, Advanced Healthcare Directive, or AHCD. As I said before, importantly from this session, that it will be recorded. We're going to go into a deep dive into advanced healthcare directives. If there's any questions, put them in the Q&A or chat. We'll be here all the time, and Geraldine from our office will take any questions, and you can always get in touch with any of our support team. Geraldine heads it up, and just by going support@lightyeardocs.com.au, you'll see on the site there's always a little support button there, and we're essentially there for you, particularly if you've got technical issues, because a lot of the stuff that we're getting into is really brand new. It's exciting, but importantly, it is a brand new area, and I want to talk about that a little later on, and I've got a really big announcement. Now, the vital and absolute importance of having an advanced healthcare directive was brought home to me recently when my 87-year-old father fell ill very suddenly. So this was, in fact, probably around about just over 2 weeks ago, about 16 days ago. He'd had dementia now for 3 years, and he was continually falling over at home. Mum honestly couldn't handle it. She was calling the ambulance every 3 or 4 weeks. Dad was lying prostrate, blood everywhere on the house, which they shared in Urbray, 11 Old Coach Road, Urbray. And she just couldn't pick him up because obviously she's very slight, and he was getting heavier and heavier. So I had to go and intervene. This was about 3.5 years ago. Put him into Adelaide Hospital. Then we moved him down to Smsf, which is down by the beach, just as a holding pattern. We found a fantastic little aged care place in Parkside, which was near Urbray, which is St. Louis Home. Very small, very exclusive, but absolutely beautiful place, and they looked after him. But certainly over the last few years, he started to go downhill very seriously in terms of his dementia. And I'm sure if I showed him back years ago what he was like, it would be he'd probably been distraught, as, if any of us could fast forward to times when we had dementia or Alzheimer's, we'd probably all be extremely concerned having a look at a video of that. Not that we're all going to get it, but again, I think it's the Australian Dementia Council notes that there'll be more than 1 million people in Australia with dementia by 2030, which is only in 10 years. So we need to canvass those issues with our clients. And it's absolutely important for that, that when we go through that process, that when we do these advanced healthcare directives, when we do these enduring powers of attorney, when we do the wills, that prior to doing that, we must, and listen, this is absolutely crucial, and Tony Anamoulis from our legal firm will tell you, it's absolutely crucial to get a medical certificate from a doctor that the client is of sound mind and body. Again, if we're going down this track and you're going down the wills, you're going down the advanced healthcare directives, even if you're doing an Smsf will or a binding death benefit nomination or an advanced healthcare directive, you need to ensure that you have a doctor's certificate that says the client is of sound mind and body, and that's absolutely crucial. Anyway, Dad, getting back to Dad, he was in the nursing home and gradually deteriorated. One of the issues is he had, honestly, talk about a cat with nine lives. He had 3 strokes and also a heart attack, continually falling over all his life. He's just one of those people who are prone to falling over or clumsy. And I had a chat with the head of the nursing home the other day, and she said they'd recorded more than 450 falls that Dad had over the years. So it was quite interesting because honestly, my brother took all the calls because obviously I had to call the family when he fell over. My brother took all the calls, but we were always just waiting for that day that they'd found Dad on the ground, bloodied, and essentially had passed away. But not to be. My dad was the original rubber band man, and if you remember that song from the 70s, that was my father, the absolute rubber band man. But at the end, it was a clot on his lung and also kidney failure that really hit him hard. And I was called by the nurse at the home and just saying, look, you better get over this. Could be Dad's last 1 or 2 nights. So we jumped in a plane. I'm up in Sunshine Coast, so drove down to Brisbane, got a plane directly to Adelaide that same day. Luckily we were in the bubble. Unfortunately, my other brothers were over in New South Wales and couldn't come over. Or if they did come over, they had to be isolated into a hotel or an apartment or Airbnb. They couldn't go out of there except for a funeral, so they couldn't even go into the nursing home, which you well and truly understand because of the COVID hotspots in New South Wales. So we hightailed it over there, and by the time I got to my father, what had happened is before he went in, all you had to give obviously to the grant or the staff at the nursing home or the aged care facility any advanced healthcare directive that he had, and I'm going to take you through the South Australian one, which I think is a pretty good one. So we're going to learn a lot out of that one. Basically, really the only option for my father would have been to, well, even if he did have a kidney transplant, it was unlikely that his lungs were ever going to be okay. So by the time I got my father, he had extremely laboured breathing. He'd been off any water or food, which was as per his healthcare directive, for around about a day. So he's becoming pretty emaciated. He lasted bloody strong character. He lasted another 3 days. I was in and out of his bedside the whole time. And effectively it was, at the end, it was great. Not great for him to pass. I mean, we all miss him, but he'd had 87 years, loved his cricket. So 87, the cricketer's devil number got him. But, he lasted and then effectively passed away peacefully. He was on pretty serious morphine because obviously with the kidney failure, there was huge pain there. I was on very serious morphine and he was having it every 2 or 3 hours. So again, a great service at St. Louis Home. So hat tip to those guys. He passed away, which would have been it was in fact 2 weeks ago, Thursday night, which coincidentally was his mother's birthday. And then, of course, I had to arrange the funeral, all of that sort of stuff, which had to be done really quickly. My brothers came over. They couldn't really help. They came over and in and out on the funeral. And, of course, I had to look after Mum for that period of time. So being back on deck, we came back on Sunday and back into work, which is a good distraction. But, I wouldn't say I'm a religious man, but I'm a spiritual man and, believe in the afterlife and, coming back, whether it's right or wrong. But, I still can feel Dad around, but I feel Dad's spirit, which is eternal. And, we had a great time. Cried a hell of a lot. But at the end of the day, with that advanced healthcare directive, he ended up passing as quickly as possible. Whereas I can tell you, if he didn't have that advanced healthcare directive, he would have been on intravenous drip, being fed, who knows what would have happened. And I believe I had a chat with the doctor. They said, well, if he didn't have that, you would probably, he'd last maybe, with the kidney failure, they're gradually floating down, but it would have been 2 or 3 weeks. And that just would have been horrendous for everyone. I'm not sure my mum, who's in the same nursing home, she was just absolutely distraught and couldn't even go to his bedside that much. It was just too much for us. So, thank goodness for the advanced healthcare directive. And it's quite funny because many of us don't know what advanced healthcare directive is. We just assume the enduring power of attorney sort of controls all of that stuff, which it does to a certain extent. So with COVID, it's really with intubation, which is obviously the use of respiration devices, and critical illness, going in intensive cares or ICUs. All that stuff has really been pushed in our face. We continually, particularly for those of us who've been up in Queensland, New South Wales, South Australia, and of course Western Australia, we've seen that second wave hit Victoria, and of course we're all overly concerned about that. So it's absolutely crucial now for clients, and forget about clients, for yourselves to get an advanced healthcare directive. So if you have a look up on the screen, really, obviously all of us have right to make decisions about our own life, which is fantastic. That's fairly important. But if we do get sick or injured, then we want to lay down plans on what is going to happen, or who else is going to make decisions for us. Particularly, you've all been through the sessions of enduring power of attorney. I know many of you are doing enduring powers of attorney up on the Abbott-Family, and also the up on the Light Year Docs site, which is absolutely crucial. So from that perspective is that you're going to need that enduring power of attorney. And I must admit, there was a problem with dads. I've got mum's enduring power of attorney, and she had dads, thank goodness. But dad's enduring power of attorney had mum, and then also had myself as enduring power of attorney, but the only one we could find ended up not being executed properly, which created huge problems because I couldn't go and set up a bank account. I couldn't, because they had a joint bank account. I wanted to transfer some money over to Dad's account for Social Security and Centrelink issues. But without that enduring power of attorney, forget it. And if you're trying to deal with Centrelink, forget it. You don't even get past first base. So it's absolutely crucial to have a well thought out, well drafted enduring power of attorney, well thought out, well drafted will, which is really at the end of the life. And then more importantly, having this advanced healthcare directive. So when we go down, obviously we're going to have our attorney or our decision maker or our maker or our supporter in terms of advanced healthcare directive, or our attorney if we've got an enduring power of attorney, or when we come down, obviously on death, it's our executor. So what will happen is that you'll find in Victoria, it's the medical decision maker. In South Australia, it's a supporter. So to date, what we've done is we've coded up Victoria, Western Australia and South Australia, so which I've still got to look at. We're currently working on Queensland. So the next 10 to 14 days, we'll be rolling out all states and territories. So it's an important time for us to look at all this sort of stuff. It's a lot harder than enduring power of attorney because there's different relevant state laws, and we're going to have a look at it as we go through how to complete these, and more importantly, how to help our client meet these as well. So the important thing, as I said, when you come around to enduring power of attorney, that you've got both sides generally. In most cases, you've got the medical side and also the financial side, which most of us are fairly aware of. But when it comes down to medical decisions in terms of how to make treatment, your enduring power of attorney just doesn't cut it. So you can see there, the medical treatment decision maker, which will go in different things, has legal authority to make medical treatment decisions for you if you're unable to do so, which is what happened when Dad was diagnosed. Well, obviously had the issue with a clot on the lung, and also the kidney failure. Mum called and said, obviously, what the advanced healthcare directive for Dad was, and should she make the decision to not feed or have any fluids. And I said, look, it's up to you. I think that's the right decision to make, particularly after talking with the doctor. Now, Mum's had that power to do so. The advanced care directive also, in some instances, you may not have a medical treatment decision maker, but you're enabled to document your values and the key preferences for your medical treatment decision maker, or alternatively, just simply put down for the aged care or the doctors or the medical fraternity some legally binding instructions about future medical treatment, which you may consent to or refuse. So in Dad's instance, he refused, or Mum made a refusal in terms of both food and also fluids. Again, we'll have a look through all of that. What I want to do now is I'm just going to bounce out of here, and I'm going to take you through to the, I'm going to show you a couple of things. First off, what I want to do is have a look at the South Australian Advanced Healthcare Directive, which you'll see up on the screen. So I'll just unpin this, so put the format bar. So as I said, we've done this. The important thing about this is each of the advanced healthcare directives, and this one is called Advanced Care Directive, depends on which state, how they do it. Each of them have taken off and are published by the states, the regulatory public authority that deals with this, which is the same as our EPOAs. So that you'll generally find that the legal profession simply just duplicates that because it's a lot easier. And again, it enables a person to do it themselves if they want to. Or more importantly, you as financial planners or accountants can facilitate that specific process. So if I go through here and go through some of the criteria, then what I'm going to do is I'll come back and then I'll wheel around, and halfway through we'll go through and build one as well for you using our system. So there you go, there's a couple of old geezers there. So as you can see, this is from it's a Government of South Australian document. Now what I've done is I'll put this form in with the slides to this session and also the recording. So you've got each. And just to make it easier, rather than go through everything, I've marked up areas which I believe are important, so that if you're, rather than reading through the whole thing, just focus in on these. Now, importantly, you can fill in your advanced healthcare directive on your own. You may wish to get help from someone close to you or visit a lawyer or a doctor for advice. So again, you can be in that process of facilitating it with the client. There's two ways of doing it. Either you can get the client to fill in the fact find yourself, and then you can put it into the system, or alternatively, we can get a data capture. So I'm just working out with our team, which is important. We saw in Victoria, it was medical decision makers. Here, we've got, if you appointed one or more substitute decision makers, they must sign the form and accept their role before you sign it in front of a witness. So you actually need to get all that done. So again, it'll depend on the system, but just watch what it has. You must sign your advanced care directive in front of an independent witness. And importantly, that includes lawyers. So you can use Tony Anulis from Abbott-Family if you want to do a Zoom on that. But as a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, effectively, or CPAs or OPA, you are classified as an independent witness, so it's not a bad idea. So you can see here, sorry, I've completed the advanced care directive for my mother. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bounce through that one, and you'll see there's a lot of Zs in that. We'll come back to that a little bit later on. I just want to go through the instructions because, again, much the same as when we look at the tax office rulings or guidelines, and remember that property development guideline, which is the Regulatory Bulletin 2020/1. It's good to go in and see, the state authorities, the regulatory authorities spend a lot of time on building these things. So why try and reinvent the wheel is my important. And particularly, I mean, these guys are the arbiter of the decision making anyway, rather than going to a lawyer who's simply going to give you this document anyway. So what is an advanced care directive? An advanced care directive is a legal form that allows people over the age of 18 years to, one, write down their wishes, preferences, and instructions for future healthcare, end of life, which is important, living arrangements and personal matters, and or appoint one or more substitute decision makers to make these decisions on their behalf when they're unable to do so. It cannot be used to make financial decisions. That's where an enduring power of attorney comes in. So much the same as we have, again, this idea of succession is we have the first person who's going to be our enduring power of attorney, who, if you understand my philosophy about putting a moat and a ring of control around a client's family wealth, which is paramount these days. We need to have absolute control that the person who is our power of attorney should also be our substitute decision maker, and you can have them as joint, our substitute decision maker for the Advanced Healthcare Directive, as well as the executor of our estate, because this is the end of life sort of stuff. And then it moves on, obviously, to death. So we want to have a continuity going throughout that process. Ideally, if you really wanted to moat everything up in terms of your SMSF, they would also be the next leading member, because you're using a leading member SMSF, and they're also the next leading member appointor for a family trust. Now, if you do that, plus if you're aware, if there's any companies out there, such as bucket companies, trading companies, then if in our EPOA, you may have seen a couple of weeks ago that we've also got the ability that on death or incapacity, that we can have the EPOA, who's also the substitute decision maker, the executor, is also the successor director for the person if they're sick or they die. So there's continuity in terms of the whole arrangement. And again, continuity and security is paramount from my perspective, which is why I've spent a lot of time building that moat and thinking about where things might fall down, where there's problems and delays, because as soon as you get delays, you get arguments, and also that's when the legal fees start to hit the roof. And we see it day in and day out at Abbott-Family that a lot of stuff's put in place, and then unfortunately you're virtually stuck with what you've got, particularly if they've lost capacity. So again, we want to make sure that we have that succession in there, so that for Advanced Healthcare Directive, we've obviously got the individual or the client who's making, or yourself who's making the actual document, would then have substitute decision maker, and then a second substitute decision maker if need be. You'll need to get them to sign off, and then it obviously can get witnessed. So when we go down, you can change your Advanced Care Directive at any time while you're still able by completing a new Advanced Care Directive form. So much the same as a will, we revoke our earlier one and we put in place a new one. Now here, your new Advanced Care Directive form will replace all other documents you may have completed previously, including enduring power of guardianship, medical power of attorney, or anticipatory direction. So that's in South Australia. When it will be used, your Advanced Care Directive only takes effect if you're unable to make your own decisions, whether temporarily or permanently. So you might have, for example, a car accident. So if you've got a car accident and able to, if you're not cognizant, this is when your Advanced Healthcare Directive starts to come in, and so that's where your substitute decision maker basically comes in. So who will make decisions for you if you cannot? It is your choice whether you appoint one or more substitute decision makers. If you appointed one or more substitute decision makers, they will be legally able to make they will be legally able to make decisions for you about your healthcare, living arrangements, for example, going into a specific nursing home, and other personal matters where you're unable to. You see, that's where the problem can arise, that if mum or dad are sick and they need to be put into a nursing home, the quality of the nursing home can be quite, I can tell you, as I said, Dad was originally from Adelaide Hospital, went down to Semaphore, which is a 3-star facility. He had a room which had 2 beds in it. He was sharing a bathroom with someone from the next room who happened to be a younger lady who was recovering a rehab from meth addiction. So you can imagine the noises and the screams that were coming from there. Now, if you've got a substitute decision maker, effectively, if you don't specify where you'd like to go, effectively they could leave you at Semaphore, particularly if you're in a coma. Now, that might not be a bad thing in terms of saving money, but in terms of quality of life is a bit of an issue. So the more directions you can put in here for your substitute decision maker, the easier it is, rather than giving discretion. So again, you can specify the types of decisions you want them to make in Part 2B, conditions of appointment. Now, if you do not appoint any substitution decision makers, others close to you may be asked to make decisions for you if we're unable. They must follow any relevant wishes and instructions you've written. So by putting down that advanced care directive, anyone else, whether it's your family, if you've got a substitute, they have to abide by your decision. So that's absolutely crucial. So you can see we've got that first line, making sure you've got everything that you want in place, and then putting terms and conditions around that substitute decision maker. So refusal healthcare, that's the big one, and that's the area that that I was talking about with my dad. So you may have written in your advanced care directive that you do not want certain types of healthcare, also known as refusal of healthcare. It's important to make sure you will have written down when or under what circumstances any refusals of healthcare apply. If you have refused specific healthcare in your advanced care directive, your substitute decision makers, person responsible, and your health practitioner must follow that refusal if it is relevant to the current circumstances. So there's only limited circumstances when they can go outside that. So it's legally binding for them, which is absolutely crucial. Now, before you sign, make sure you understand what types of decisions you'll be able to make, how the person wants you to make those decisions for them, and that you're able to be a substitute decision maker. So this is for the substitute decision maker guidelines. A person who cannot be appointed as a substitute decision maker include the person's doctor, nurse, or paid professional carer. But people who are paid carers allowance can be decision makers, and then obviously getting a certified copy. So what is the role of substitute decision maker? As a substitute decision maker, you must try to make a decision you believe the person would have made for themselves in the same situation. As a substitute decision maker, you can make all decisions the person wanted you to make, but you cannot make a decision which would be illegal, such as requesting voluntary euthanasia. I'm not sure where we are in terms of Victoria about that. Refusing food and water to be given to them by mouth. So in that instance, Dad was not able to be given any food by mouth, so it would have had to be by way of a drip. Refuse medicine for pain or distress. Now, we weren't going to do that, obviously, morphine, or make legal or financial decisions. So that's where the enduring power of attorney comes in to place. So there's further guidelines there. We've got a lot of examples sitting in there. We've got a whole 6 or 7 step, or in fact, there's a 10-step process of what needs to happen for the substitute decision maker. Again, when you have a look at this, it's got everything in there, which is absolutely crucial, because the document you're going to be printing out and taking for the client and signing. So you'll be doing this as part of enduring power of attorney and potentially a will, and also an SMSF will. It gives everyone exactly the right knowledge and information. And look, I couldn't even write all of this stuff because it's all given, and each state has its own element, as you'll see. So when it comes down to witnesses, you must be independent of the person. So you guys are pretty good and certified. It can't be a beneficiary of the will or the substitute decision maker, etc. So we've got further witnesses down there. You can see here a list of authorised witnesses who can certify copies, which is important. Members of institutes, CPAs, and also the Institute of Public Accountants, which should be pretty important. Thank you. So I've got a issue here. On 19th of June 2019, the Voluntary Assisted Dying Act came into effect. Victorians are at the end of life and meet strict eligible criteria can now request access to voluntary assisted dying. So that's a good one. So before I release the Victorian, I will go in and have a look at that act, which I think is a pretty important one. Obviously in Adelaide, we didn't have a look at that one. Oh, that wasn't in place, but very advanced there. Anyway, I won't say much about Victorian COVID at the moment, so apologies for any of that one. So what we're going to do is we can go through the form. So what I'm going to do is I'll just I'll pull the form there. I'll just drop it down a little bit so we can see that, and then let's go through, and I can pull that up at any time. So let's go through into the Lightyear Docs site. Now you can see here I'm running Chrome. With Chrome, we have had some problems with that, and we've been in touch with Abacus Next, and the issue around that, we are building a long-term fix for it, but that's going to take maybe 3 or 4 weeks, maybe sooner. But in the meantime, you'll actually see in the chat room that Geraldine has got a very easy video that will show you there's just 3 things you need to turn off or disable from Chrome, which doesn't impact your browser experience. But what it does is enables the PDF to be created once you've completed the document. So you won't have that expired session or that frustration before. So we've fixed it. There's a fix there. There will be a long-term fix on it, but you can find that if you go into the chat, but we will put that on an email when it comes out a little bit later on today when I send you out details of where to find this relevant session. So in the document categories, obviously it's going to be in estate planning. You can actually see all our different new things. We've got quick guides there. You can see, but again, I think we're launching it next week, but we've got our Cash 360 integration, which is fantastic. Our Simple Super or the Simple Fund 360 is coming up very shortly. So that's going to make your job so much easier. You've got our weekly webinars, which are really important. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later on. If you want to, you can see we've got the Advanced Healthcare Directive, but tune in for all of that webinar platform. And of course, you know how much I love the Strategy Centre. That's where you find all these webinars. So let's go to the document categories, go down to estate planning. As you can see, I've got the Advanced Care Directive for South Australia, which is quite different from the EPOA for South Australia, which it is, where's the EPOA, South Australia? Gosh, oh, there it is, Enduring Power of Attorney. So just click on that. Again, I can do this. What I would suggest strongly is that for all of you, it's worthwhile. I'll do one for myself just so you've got a bit of an understanding. It won't take that long. So what I would suggest is that you would, for those of you particularly, those of you who are on unlimited use, so your subscribers or your licensees, go in and do it for yourself and also let your staff do it. So, you know, it's really important to get that, that issue. As I said, you can see our support button down there. So we go to the document setup. I'm going to call this grants EPOA. Now you will see here that there's no logo. Remember, most of ours have a logo. The reason there's no logo is because this is a state government form. Again, that ensures that when you're dealing with this, you're not providing legal advice. All you're doing is filling in a state government data capture. In fact, for nowadays, if you're doing with a Zoom, it's not a bad idea to do a Zoom with a client and then taking them through this online. So I'd be doing the video, showing them, just do the video watching, but I'd have the document open, but obviously don't be like I'm doing, sharing the screen. So then you can ask them the questions. So the date, the Advanced Healthcare Directive is made. So again, it depends on when it's going to be executed. So let's say we're going to do a Zoom, we're going to get everything done by the 17th. Or remember, you can just leave that open and then come back and relaunch at any point in time. So we'll put the date of birth. So I don't mind showing everyone my date of birth. So quite proud of that. I'm one of the baby boomers. So Grantley, Giles, Abbott. Now, I'll put in my old address when I was living in Adelaide, but obviously it's completely irrelevant to me because I'm now in Sunshine Coast. Thank goodness. So put my telephone number. All of you know that at any point in time, you can just give me a call if you've got any specific technical issues or need help in anything. We're open book. Is there a substitute decision maker? Yes, and I put that in. So the substitute a decision maker, I've got there is, I put Amanda Lynn Abbott, who's my is my wife. So please don't hassle me about this one. And again, 11 Old Coach Road. Guys, I believe in transparency, so I'm not going to lie to you, and I wouldn't lie to you. It doesn't make sense, not at my age. Telephone and mobile number. What is it? It's 04 Isn't that terrible these days? We don't know because it's all in our system. 183305. There you go. Now add another. So I would put also there Sophia, which is my eldest daughter, Elizabeth Abbott. Her date of birth 09/02/1998. I forget where she lives. Oh, she's 5 Tynan Street or Tynan something. I don't know. Street. Austin Wick, poor thing. She's down in the lockdown state. I feel so sorry for her. I'm not sure what the postcode is, but again, I can go back and fill it in, and I'm not sure what her phone number is, but I can fill that in later. And you can see I can keep on adding another. So these are the substitute decision makers. We've also put a lot of, we've put in a lot of copy out of the document in here as well. So do we need an interpreter? You need to complete this. You would think, well, that's crazy, but is there an interpreter? No, we don't need that. Now we get into the directives. So the conditions of the appointment. So if the maker have appointed one or more to substitute, do they make decisions together or separately? So when we go through that process, Tony's just saying, I'll try and get to that, Tony. So so this would be, so if you're doing that, you say, okay, with a client, do you want them to be joint or several? So substitute decision must make decisions together, but if tied, Amanda is to have the final say. So again, you'll have, what I'll do is I'll print this document out and I'll complete it for you as well. So what decisions are being made for the people should consider? So what are the things that are actually really important? And so we can go back and have a look here at the Advanced Care Directive, appointing decision makers, conditions of appointment, which we've just basically put in there. Again, you must put a Z through the blank sections if you do not want to put conditions. So here's what is important to me, my values. So for example, here's a few things. Relationships with my family and friends are very important to me. I like my friends and family to be involved in my life. You know, you could actually read this out. I prefer my pets to be near, not my dogs at all. I think this is important for me, so I'm just going to copy and I'm going to paste that there. So I think that's, my family and substitute decision maker, which is going to be important, will inform of what is important to me. And look, most of my family would know that. And actually, I'll put here. Important thing to me in the event of incapacity is an assessment of a quick return to full health, and if this is protracted or not possible, I do not desire to be an imposition on my family financially, emotionally. Again, so we can put that in there. Again, I'll give you all these words so you'll have a good idea. So outcomes the maker wants to avoid. So again, I can just go in and I'll have a look here. So what I don't want to happen to me. So if I'm unable to recognise family and friends, for example, having dementia, I do not want any healthcare which prolongs my life. Check. In fact, what I might even do, I think if we go down the track, we might even have some of these as bullet points that will auto-generate them if you want. But again, remember what we do at, what we practice here at Like Your Docs is a process called Kaizen, which you might have heard before, which is the doctrine of continuous improvement. So all our documents start, and then as you guys work through them, we want our users to give us a 360 feedback. So they were continually improving our system. Okay, so institutional. So being permanently unable to make my own decisions would not be acceptable to me. If I'm in a permanent coma, I'm not able to, I do not want healthcare. And I'd say that's probably another good one there. So I'll just put that one in there. Preferred healthcare. So we'll just go down there, and it's good. Got a lot of all that sort of stuff here. So again, preferred healthcare. I want to live as well as possible, as long as possible, willing to accept medical treatment my doctors and family thinks appropriate. Yep, that's right on the money there. And again, you can see here we've actually pulled that data out, which you'll see is also appropriate for other ones. Where does the maker wish to live? Again, I could probably just cut and paste. So there, you may wish to consider, I prefer to be supported, cared for at home as long as possible. I think that would probably be the main one for a lot of your clients, and I'd be the same one as well. If I have moved to a nursing facility or home, I want it to be the best available. It does make a difference. Option. Mum gets like 3 meals a day plus 2 teas and coffees and wine with meals. So other personal arrangements, again, you don't have to. You can just leave those areas there. You can see there, for example, grooming requirements such as haircuts, you know, blah, blah, blah. So you can put in those. He's okay. I'll just put this anyway. So personal dress standards, for example, I do not want to wear tracksuits at any time of the day or night. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we'll put that in just for as a joke. Dying wishes. I think that's a good one there. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste that one. So you can actually go through this and you can see it's very easy for you. If you're doing a Zoom, you could have everything up on screen. Just say, well, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that for the client? And then you get a thing. Binding refusal. So this is the one that was for my father. So I think that this is crucial. Okay, so I think that's if my life is unsustainable, I do not want. So that's a good one. I can go down and have a look. I'll see what else they've got here as well. So my dying wishes. So we've got a whole lot of stuff there. Some suggest I want more time with my family. My spirituality is more important to me. So that's okay. I like that one. Actually, that's a really good one. I like that one. So why reinvent the wheel when the guys have actually done it for you? So that's there. And we're getting to the end of it here, which is great. And I'll show you what it looks like. Binding refusals of healthcare. So you can got like, okay, so this is a nice one too. Further, if I have a serious condition which I'm not going to recover, I'm incontinent, cannot eat without assistance, dependent on others to wash and move me. I didn't want any treatment which prolongs my life. Absolutely. That's right on. As I said, I'm going to give you this sort of stuff. So do your first one yourself. And as I said, it's going to roll out for a while. We don't have to worry about the interpreter, witnessing, extra execution statements. I don't think there's anything there. And look, there's heaps of FAQs around that. There's lots of stories and all that. So it's a really, look, I love it. I just think it's a really comprehensive document. Extra execution statements. I would like my substitute, spell properly, substitute decision makers to be paid $2,000 for their efforts in ensuring days comfortable. So there you go. So that would go to both of them. So I've done that, and then that's it. So you can see that there's quite a bit of work to be done compared to an EPOA. In fact, the will, I personally believe the will is, well, actually the will's probably easier to explain because most people understand it. EPOA the next, because remember ours has got the ability to run businesses plus also take over funds and trusts. So that's just a little bit more hardcore. And this one is probably the hardest out of the lot. So let's have a look at the Advanced Healthcare Directive, which I'll put up there. I'll save this for you guys. So I go down the track. We've seen that. So we've just been through that. So personal details, Grantley Giles Abbott, address, phone number, date of birth. Substitute decision makers, Amanda Lynn Abbott. And then remember, we have to give this to her. She has to sign, and then it needs to be witnessed as well, and then Sophia Elizabeth Abbott as well. Now, we haven't got a second substitute decision maker, so there's a Z through there. In fact, it looks as though just in my coding, we probably need to put that in place. So I'll have a chat with our coder for that. But you need to have that said, and for those of you who've done these sort of things with lawyers, you find that they just rule these things. So conditions appointment. So for the substitute decision makers, it must make a decision together, but if tied, amends have the final say. Remember, we just wrote that in. What's important to me? So blah. So outcomes and things I want to wish to avoid, which you'll have a lot of healthcare I prefer. You've got to put your initials of witnesses, where I wish to live, other personal arrangements. So what I'd be doing is I'd be doing all of this with the client. Obviously, there's nothing around interpreters there. Witnessing, etc. That's where you guys would come involved from the witnesses. And then the rest is just information statements. So it's not a huge element, but it's a really good, solid package. So what I'd be doing is I'd be doing this and then effectively sending that out to the client for review and then coming back and going through that execution process. So that's effectively our Advanced Healthcare Directive. You can see we've got South Australia up. The next one will be Western Australia, then Victoria. Although I must admit, I will have to look at that termination of life just a bit more carefully. Any feedback from you would be absolutely fantastic. And then with Queensland, we'll have to go through the process as well. With Victoria, it's just a little bit more difficult because we actually have to go through the process of bringing in there's two different documents, the appointment of a medical decision maker plus obviously the Advanced Healthcare Directive that will do that. Queensland I love because it's just like you actually make choices as you go down the track. So that's being done now, and that'll be rolled out early next week, followed by New South Wales, and then Tassie, ACT, and also the Northern Territory. So a couple of things out of that, as you can see from my perspective, and for those of you on here, we're sort of moving in a bigger direction. You know from my love that, I love self-managed super funds. But at the end of the day, self-managed super funds are really a great tax strategy. And that's essentially what they are. So we can make investments, but we're essentially in there for tax purposes. Now, they have a lot of issues around incapacity, dying, and again, we've motored a lot of stuff up by using Smsf death benefits trust through the Smsf will, all of that sort of stuff. So that's fairly important. From that one, what we're looking at doing is taking it one step further. Is that when I first started off doing Smsf advising way back in 1994, I even myself at that stage was, obviously come back from a legal background. I'm not a lawyer because I've never been a practicing solicitor, but do have a legal background, came from KPMG, worked at Rothschild. So I started my own business, giving me a lot of tax advice as a tax agent at that time. And then obviously got into self-managed super funds, but no one apart from myself, or in fact, I don't think anyone would call themselves an SMSF advisor in those days. I went to full core and said, look, from 1998, I'm just going to do SMSF and I'll be SMSF advisor. And of course, no one would call it. So I started up an association with quite a number of other people, and that was the SMSF Professionals Association, which ended up being SPA. I started that up in 2000. So we worked through that process of all the constitution minutes, the guidelines, educational standards, and all that. So we had a couple of fairly big meetings on that one, set up the association, and then it effectively took off after that to where it's now the SMSF Association. It's got huge amounts of membership, it's done extremely successfully, but people just call themselves SMSF advisors because they've got a certificate up on their wall that calls them a specialist SMSF advisor. So we're going down this process. I'd love you guys to give me a hand if possible. We're now starting, like doing this Advanced Healthcare Directive is something that really, as accountants or planners, if we're close to our clients, we should be doing. Rather than sending them off to a lawyer who really has no idea about their clients, no idea about their family or their family circumstances. But you've got to be really careful, again, if you want that succession planning, that mode around all the clients, you can see that the substitute decision maker or the medical decision maker should be the EPOA, should be the executor, should be the leading member if you're doing it right. And that's why we're going to put it all into the moat. So over the next 20 years, $3.2 trillion will pass in wealth between generations. So, and remember, a lot of the stuff we're doing, the EPOAs and the advanced healthcare directives and COVID brings into place all this. So it's a very exciting time for this sort of area of work. And what we need to do now is I've set up a draft constitution. We have got the public company, not-for-profit public company all set up, and I'd like to have some of you involved if you'd like to start building out training qualifications and then get certification as a specialist CPEPA, which I think we all can work towards. So we're going to roll it out in November, but if you'd like to get involved, please contact me at lightyeardocs.com.au. Some more news. As I said before, we've had a couple of issues around Chrome where people obviously got frustrated, as I did, and started to hit me that I'd have an expired session. There's now a fix there, and you can find that in the chat room, but we'll send you out a quick video of what to do. Alternatively, just contact us at support@lightyeardocs.com.au. Geraldine's happy to go through with a Zoom with you, but it does work on Edge anyway, or Microsoft Edge, or what we used to call Internet Explorer. The next 10 days, we'll roll out all the other healthcare directives. One of the ones that's really important for all of you, and we'll send out an invitation as this email goes out, is on October the 7th from 8:30 to 12:30. I'm having a 4-hour session on the moat, which by that stage will have the protector, the enduring power of attorney, advanced healthcare directives. We'll have the upgrading deeds to leading member deeds. We'll also have the Smsf will, and also wills and wills and testamentary trusts. So we're going to be looking at all of that together. And I'm assuming there you've got the basic knowledge. We're going to show you through 4 different case studies how to start to really make a huge impact and build moats around clients' affairs. And to me, it's an extremely advanced tool, and certainly there's nothing else. Honestly, there's nothing like this in the rest of the world. No legal firm has it, and you guys have got it at your hands. But it really does. It's for a whole client situation. So make sure you book in or put in your diary from October the 7th. Because once you get over that, because the people who are doing moats now, once you've done one, you can't go back, and really you'll be able to build a moat for each and every client, and I'll show you what to do there. So it's extremely exciting, and that rolls in sort of where we are with SEPEPA. Anyway, it's look, we're into the end of the session. Thank you very much for coming on. Next week, what we'll do is we're going to look at going through LRBAs with Tony Anamoulis. What to do, when to sign the documents. I'm going to look at through the related party properties and borrowings, which we've been more involved with recently. And then we're also going to look at a number of strategies around that use of 1322C trust. So we want to get a bit more involved in that one. Tony's been doing lots of research, so we'll follow on that one. So good old mate Dennis Lim from Mr. Dimmy from Leongatha. Moat effectively is a set of tools or documents which you'll see, and it's available. If I just bounce out of here, you will see here, if you go into our site, just quickly go to the document categories, and I'll just show you what it looks like. So if I go to document categories, estate planning, we call it the moat, which is the comprehensive estate planning package. So if I start the document, I'll just put Abbott test. And the key thing about it is we will spend a lot of time on it, and you're going to have so much fun on that day. Honestly, it'll be a life-changing, a career-changing day for you, I promise. So the documents that we have there is the moat is a series as a set of documents, and we've got a few more to add there, which include advanced healthcare directives that builds obviously a fortified set. If you know what a moat and a castle is, essentially what you're doing there is you're building for your clients a moat and castle. So exactly, this is what you're building for your client. You are building a big water around there, so people outside, whether they're litigators, the government, family provisions claims, effectively can't access their clients because you've built a big moat around your client's affairs, which goes back to that SEPEPA, that succession. That if we've got really good, strong succession, it limits it. The second one is asset protection, making sure that everything is in the castle and it's not sitting outside. For example, if an individual has got a house outside for capital gains tax exemption purposes, that's great, but we want to get the equity out of the house by the protector and put it into the castle, which is usually a series of either SMSFs or family protection or leading member discretionary trusts. So the same thing, if we've got a bucket company out here, we want to get the equity out of that, out of the shares, and put them in there as well. So that's essentially where the moat is. We've got there's plenty. If you have a look on our strategy centre, for those of you, I know Dennis, you've got lots of spare time there in Leongatha, particularly now in lockdown. What I would do is I would go through. I'd go through and have a look. Here, there's a really good one there. You can see on June the 23rd, I did a moat in a deep dive mode. Have a look at that one. Have a look at the 23rd, as I said, the 23rd, both of those ones. And essentially what we'll do is on the, I think the 7th of October, we'll get together and we'll, as I said, it'll be a career-changing experience guaranteed. Anyway, thanks for that. Contact us at support@lightyeardocs.com.au. If you want to be a SPEPA person, contact me at grant@lightyeardocs.com.au. Now, it's Grant Abbott, signing off.